Where's your favorite place to take college game day? And I say every time, Eugene, Oregon.
Hello and welcome, Ducks fans, where and whenever you are watching or listening. This is the Once a Duck podcast, where as always, we bring you up to date with current and former University of Oregon athletes and give you never before heard stories about your favorite teams and moments in Duck history. It's been a long time, but for those of you that are familiar with the show, I'm your host, Nick Cody, and you can follow me at JustFollow61. And my co-host, as always, how you doing? How you been since our last episode, Sam?
Well, you know what, Nick? I am still here. I am still surviving. And I think during the last, probably a couple years at this point, that's all we can really ask for. As Nick said, you can follow him at JustFollow61. You can follow me at Samuel101TS. Nick, yet again, we are looking down the barrel of a brand new football season. Oregon versus Fresno State will be the first game of this year. But before that, I know you have a couple ideas in mind. Why don't you break us out into our new format, into some of the new things we have rolling out for people?
Yeah, we always, as the Oregon team does, we always trying to change it up, bring something new, bring a new flavor, and always keep the people interested and changing up uniforms all the time. So we hope you're joining us on YouTube. If you're not, please get subscribed, like a video, share with your friends. You can find us on all your other podcasting platforms as well as an audio version. But we hope you catch up with this episode, at least on the visual form in some way, because with the great guests we plan on having on this season, you're going to want to see what happens. And the audio version just might not make enough sense. But another thing we wanted to do and introduce this season is we wanted to quit spending so much time talking about the last episode and last week. So what we're going to do right here and start off for the very first time and talk about the off season with a lightning round. 2 minutes on the clock, Sam, starting now. First topic, go. What's happened since the last season?
Oh, man, quite a bit has happened. There's been a whole spring practice in which we learned a lot. We learned how good some of these freshmen are, including guys like Troy Franklin, who's going to be on the outside, top of the depth chart if you were able to see it. There was a whole quarterback battle that took place. Anthony Brown ended up being the winner. We had a feeling that a quarterback who was number 13 was probably going to be taking snaps for Oregon. It turned out to be the veteran, Oregon going with experience in that direction. There was some fun to be had, a little bit too much fun to be had. And there was some good, some bad, some medium, some great new uniforms that I know I'm probably going to talk about more than I need to during this entire show throughout the season. But Nick, I'll flip it back over to you. Yep. However much time is left. What are you thinking?
We got about a minute 15 left, but we've got a brand new defensive coordinator, whole new defense coming in, hopefully going to utilize Kayvon Thibodeau outside of that 4-eye role we talked about a lot last year. He actually was the head coach of Fresno State the last time the Ducks played, which is hilarious and how coincidental. His quarterback was also Derek Carr, who is now currently in front of Marcus Mariota, the other quarterback of that game, both playing for the Raiders currently. So that's just a little more information. And how did we wrap up on the basketball season, Sam?
Well, you know what? Both teams were able to perform. Oregon men's basketball, if I remember correctly, and it was quite a long time ago, were able to play very well, including upsetting Iowa in the tournament in a way that not a lot of people thought they would. The Ducks were able to make it to the Sweet 16. It was a very impressive performance for them. On the women's end, that is a team that is just building talent by the day. Kelly Graves continues to have sensational groups of young players coming in, sensational classes. And on the Diamonds, well, it was an unprecedented year for Oregon baseball, who showed out in a way they hadn't in quite a bit of time. And for Oregon softball, it was another year building in the right direction with a brand new head coach.
Wow. And with 4 seconds left, I think that's the perfect way to end the lightning round just in time. Hey, hope you guys like that.
Nick, while there's still give me 1 second. New Pac-12 commissioner, and there's a new alliance of 3 major conferences in college football. That's also going on.
Ooh. Yeah, there's almost too much to stuff into 2 minutes there. Hopefully, in future weeks, it's going to be a lot easier. That's how we're going to recap games because we want to focus a lot of our content on what you want to hear. We don't want to sit here and be another podcast that just analyzes every single game, every single player, over critiques every move by the coaches. We just want to bring you stories that you haven't heard anywhere else. That's what we do for you. So, something that our fans have reached out and said they wanted to hear in this episode specifically at MT Booble wants to know what it's like playing different times of day. And I thought that would be a great subject to talk about before we bring on our guests. Sam, as a fan, do you prefer evening games for that atmosphere, or do you like the day games because you get it out of the way early, you get to go have some friends with some fun times with your friends?
Well, Nick, I'm sure that as a player, your routine is different with every single different time of game. It's the same as a fan. Your routine is different. For example, a game like the opening game against Fresno State, that's 11 a.m. That's pretty early in the day, regardless of who you are, for a college football game to be kicking off. I'm excited for it, though. That means the gates will be opening up at 9 a.m. So get your pancakes, get your sausage links, get whatever you're going to have, and get over to Autzen Stadium. It's going to be a fun time. I also personally like it because the opening week of college football, there's always so many fun games. You'll be able to go back, watch some of those primetime games. There's going to be some really big ones. Clemson, Georgia is a good example of something that'll be really fun to watch that night. But as the season wears on, the mood changes and varies as it will. I will say, though, the one thing that is the most brutal out of all of it, a night game here, okay, a night game there, okay. When you get those Pac-12 after dark games in late November, when you're out there at 7:30 at night for an Oregon versus Arizona, November 2020 something or whatever it is. I remember my freshman year back in 2017, there was such a game, I believe. Arizona and Oregon State were the last two home games of the season that year. Both were late at night. Both were way too cold. I am very happy that I was engaged in student-ly activities that allowed my body to stay warmer than it should have been.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the big perks of being a fan. You get that little bit of liquid courage in you, and you're able to withstand those difficult temperatures. So, as a player personally, it really varies, and it depends on home or the road. At home, I didn't mind early games because it gave me a great opportunity to spend time with my friends and family after the game, especially O linemen. Get to go to Papa's Pizza, like we talked about, grub out. That those were some of my favorite times. But if I was on the road, I mean, there's something about the evening games that really brings out the best of that college football atmosphere. And we had some great ones on the road. And like you mentioned, sometimes late in the season, they just seem like they put these games later and later into prime time spots. So when you're going down to Arizona State, in October and November, those flights back, man, you're getting back at Sunday morning, and you've got class the next day. Those times are really, really tough. So you've got your pros and cons about each. Personally, if we're at home, I love those morning games, but man, there's nothing that beats the energy of Halloween night against USC, something like that. So if it's a big game, I want to put that and give us the stage at night because everybody's going to be watching. Autzen's going to look fantastic, but those early season games, man, get those done, get them out of the way. And it's even crazier with even with Larry Scott's leaving, we're still going to have Bloody Larry mornings in the Pac-12 with 9 a.m. kickoffs at a couple places. So we'll see how those work out this year. I don't think I would like one of those very much, but considering we're going to be going to Ohio State in the second week of this season, which is essentially on our clocks going to be a very early game, it might be something that we just have to get used to as fans. So a lot of things to consider, but my preferences, I think I made them clear. At home, get it done early in the early seasons unless it's a big game. On the road, sure, let's put on a night game. Might as well. Just don't get me at home like 7 a.m. Sunday morning, because I'm just gonna walk right into treatment. I'm not coming back the next morning for treatment, which we had to do as players. You take into consideration. So those Sundays, it would be like walk in, walk out, just make sure you're good, and you really needed a little more time to get your body healed and rested.
Well, Nick, I appreciate both of our ability to slide around giving exact answers, but I'm going to demand exact answers out of both of us right here. I will say, as a fan, as much fun as it can be to get a game out of the way in the early, as much fun as it can be to have a late game where you're all rowdy, there's really nothing better than either that 4:30, 5:10, 5:30, that ABC slot that you are on in front of the world slot. there's really nothing better. The perfect combination of enough day to have had fun before, enough night to have fun after. Perfect weather usually, so much fun. It's the exact same time slot I know that Oregon USC Halloween game was in. I got to ask you for an exact time.
I'll Shannon Sharp to your Skip Bayless and give me the noon. Okay, give me the noon. We'll just go with that. And hey, it's a great segue point because team's going to kick off this season. So when you start the season and it's a morning game, I think that's a really big deal, because when you're starting the season, you got a lot to think about that day. You don't want to get too in your own head. You want to sit there and just have enough time to be able to visualize what you're going to go out and execute on the football field. And I hope that we're able to do that against Fresno State. But before we get too deep into that, let's get to our guests. So before we get too much into the Fresno State game and the season opener, we have someone that played in the last Fresno State Oregon game with me, wide receiver Josh Huff. How's it going, man? Thank you for joining us.
Man, it's going good. Nice to see you again. Nice to speak to you.
Yeah, man, it's great seeing you. And I got to see you play with the Calgary Stampeders this last Sunday. It was pretty awesome getting to watch that game, getting to see you get a couple catches. I know it was a tough loss, and we'll talk a little bit more about the CFL later. But first, what brought you to Oregon? Out of Houston, Texas, we had a couple guys on our team there, but not a whole lot. But what really drew you to Oregon? And was it something that you planned on to be such a huge contributor in as a true freshman?
The thing that drew me to Oregon, just being able to be away from home and trying to grow as a man, grow as an individual, and become my own person. It was a lot of things that drew me out there. Just guys already from Texas being out there, just the family mentality that I got from being out there on my official visit when you guys played Oregon State, and I think that's when you guys clinched the Rose Bowl. But just being in an environment, being in a family environment, and seeing how guys move and how guys reacted in tough situations, I wanted to be a part of that. And just the culture change that was going on at the time, and just trying to be a part of something special.
Josh, when you first got to Oregon, it was a time when the program was reaching heights that nobody had ever imagined possible before. How do you feel your impact on that kind of a rise? And also, what do you kind of take away from being part of such a team that was able to kind of grow in the way that y'all were?
Man, it was a huge blessing to be a part of the rise of the organization, to become a team not talked about much other than the uniforms, to be a powerhouse within a couple of years, and being one of the teams that everybody wanted to play and everybody wanted to beat, and getting the best out of everybody each and every week. I know a couple of times my freshman year, we had some hard-fought games, and it really showed the character of the teams and the type of players we had on our team. And just to see the growth from the time of my freshman year to the time my senior year to Marcus to Justin Herbert, it's been a blessing to watch the program continue to grow, and to reach for the national championship. And I mean, it's just been a blessing to be a part of such a historic college program at that time.
Yeah. And when you came in that freshman year, we kind of thought that might be the peak, because, we have that undefeated season. We go to the national championship game. That season, you had just an amazing role in our offense. It was like, I remember putting you all over the football field and you making big plays. I think it was, you got 2 touchdowns rushing and you averaged 17 yards per rush that season. But I know your sophomore, junior year, you had a couple injuries. What was the big difference between that first year, the sophomore and junior years, and then finally your senior year, where you came through, set a single season record in receiving yards?
That's just battling the highs and lows throughout your college career. You start off hot as a freshman, and you contribute to a historic season and reach the national championship. So you have a taste of success, and the years following, you try to reach that same level that you were at your freshman year. But unfortunately, we fell short those years that I was there. especially my sophomore year and junior year, we took some tough losses. And with my injuries, you know, those the adversity. That's the adversity that I had to go through. I had to fight through those injuries and continue to contribute to the team as much as I could, even though it wasn't at full health. And then when I was finally able to get healthy and move into the position that I felt comfortable in, which was the slot and into the offense, I was able to really explore and show what I can do within the offense. And I was able to flourish and, like you say, set new season high records and career goals. And I think I even had the career. I mean, had the season record until I think D. Mitch broke it a couple of years back. He beat me by a couple of yards. Yeah. But before then, it wasn't broke for. It hadn't been broke for like 30 or 40 something years. So just to be able to break that my senior year, that was an amazing feat.
Josh, speaking of that senior year, you played maybe one of my favorite individual games that I've ever seen out of an Oregon Duck in that 2013 game against Oregon State. We'll jump back to the Fresno State matchup. It's the matchup of the week. It's obviously what's on everybody's mind. But I just have to ask you, as a fan of Oregon football and as a fan of that game, from everything from the green and yellow uniforms to the amazing result, what was it like to be able to go out on that field for the last time and be able to put up such a historic performance on a bitter rival?
Oh, man, it was amazing. I think that was senior night as well. So I was talking to Marcus the whole week, just trying to prepare my mind and just try to make sure it was on the same page throughout the whole week. And before the game started, he told me that be prepared for the best game of your life. And I didn't take anything into it. You know, I just wanted to play, you know, obviously the best game of my life. But when he came up to me and said, I didn't pay no mind. I just thought he was just trying to get me hype. But as the opening series came and he started getting me the ball, and I think like his first 5 targets or something was to me. And then I knew it was just like, all right, you in for a big game. You just got to stay locked in. You got to stay focused. And time after time again, when the team needed me, they called my number and I was able to execute. It was definitely a dream come true. I always thought about catching the game-winning touchdown. I was able to do that. And I think obviously now people still talk about it, but that's one of my like best moments in my career, obviously.
Yeah. And not one of the best moments in your career, but talking about Fresno State, I remember we both got hurt in that game. You were on crutches. I, as we'll show later in this episode on film, banged up my knee and made a fool of myself a couple times trying to make blocks. But that was, I think a lot of people don't understand the how tough Fresno State can be as an opponent. And early season, you're really looking, especially with a team like we had in 2012 that we've debated many times on this show, maybe one of the best rosters in Oregon football history. People just don't understand those sneaky opponents that can really test you. And sometimes that test is in terms of injuries. So what do you remember from that game? And what do you think about the Fresno State program? It's pretty amazing to see that the guys that played in that game, like Derek Carr, are still playing today. You know, a couple other people, Boseko, a bunch of guys in that game, all NFL, CFL guys now still.
I mean, it's they just got to come in with the right mentality, man. Just being on that team in 2012, and obviously being a part of a super talented team. We got challenged a lot that game. We didn't break loose until I think like the third, maybe the fourth quarter. It was a hard-fought game throughout it. As you mentioned, I had suffered a knee injury on special teams, I believe it was. I hyperextended my knee, and obviously I was upset at the fact that I couldn't continue on with my teammates. And they was able to pull out the win, though. But just going in, just thinking we was going to run over them, obviously that it was a different story. And they came in with the underdog mentality and thinking and knowing that they can beat us. And they definitely gave us a hard-fought game. And I think that game really opened our eyes to not overlook any of our opponents, no matter their record, no matter the names on that roster. Because any given day, anybody can be beat. And Oregon just got to understand what lies ahead of them, the goals that they set out before the year, and they got to stay focused on those goals because after Fresno State, I think they play Ohio State, right?
Yep. That's exactly it. You don't want to look forward to that next opponent.
Right. So there some of the guys probably already looking forward to the next opponent, but that's where the veteran leadership come in, and they got to gather those guys in and take one play at a time, one series at a time, and one game at a time. And then when they pick their heads up in November and December, they'll see where dices have rolled, and they'll choose their fate then. But as right now, they gotta take it game by game and never overlook their opponent.
Josh, will soon move on to your professional career in the CFL and onward. But first, I just have to ask, what about Eugene stuck out the most to you? You spent a lot of time in the city, and before you moved away, what was the impression that the entire community kind of left on you?
Oh, I feel like even when I do come back, or whenever I did come back, it was a community that embraced the players, no matter good or bad. They embraced them, and they always looked at me as family. No matter where I went, I was always looked at as family, and they never looked down on me. It was a community that uplifted you throughout your adversities, and even when you lose games, it was a community that stayed up knit and motivated you to do better and never give up on yourself.
Well, as soon as you left Eugene, you were drafted by Coach Kelly and the Philadelphia Eagles. You spent 2 years with the Eagle, or 3 years with the Eagles, correct? And what was that experience like? What was it like getting to play for Chip again? What was different?
It was amazing playing for Chip, man. The only difference was he just didn't understand like the pro mentality of like obviously other individuals that been in the league that's been established. And he tried to bring his coaching, his college coaching habits to the NFL, and certain players didn't take toll of that. But me as a player, me being in his system, like obviously I loved it, but other players, older players, established players, didn't really buy into his system, and that was really the fate of him. Obviously, the first year he was in Philly. The year before I got there, they bought into the system, and you seen the success they had. And then the second year, it was we made the we didn't. I don't even think we made. I didn't make the playoffs while he was there, but you can tell the regression that happened from year one and year two, and the fate that the players lost in Coach Kelly. Lost in his system once things stopped happening on offense and adversity hit and all the talk got inside the locker room. Things were damaged and uncontrollable at that time for Coach Kelly, unfortunately.
Well, Josh, beyond the NFL, you found a ton of success in football, whether it be the CFL or other avenues. One that particularly interests me was your play in the Alliance of American Football when that was a league that was playing. Tell us a little bit about your experience being able to play for a new league, if you will, and how it was being able to kind of go out there and just see what that was like.
Uh, it was it was an adventure, but I definitely wish I wouldn't have did it. Obviously, it was a waste of time, clearly, but it started off as organized, and then right before the season started, that's when everything started unraveling. Um, I think we had like 3 or 4 practices, and then we played a game. We was waiting for like 2-3 days for our first game check to hit, and then it was a delay in our second game check. So it was like almost a strike in the locker room to where players didn't want to practice because we hadn't got our check yet. So that's when things really start. That's when the news start coming out. It's like, the AAF didn't have the money to fund the league, and pay the players and et cetera, et cetera. But we had already signed these contracts and promising us this type of money, X, Y, and Z. But it was definitely an experience. It was fun while it lasted, but I definitely wish I wouldn't have did it for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, did you still have Coach Al down there losing his voice, or was he able to maintain it at a professional setting?
Man, Coach Al was insane. I love his energy every day in practice. You know, he'll make a joke. You know, we had Eric Dargan out there as well. So
Yeah.
it was sort of like home with a couple of Oregon faces. But Coach Alioli, man, that man is crazy. I definitely enjoyed his spirit and enjoyed his energy and being around him.
Well, Josh, the Alliance being what it was, you were able to move on, and you've been in the CFL, you've been playing in the CFL, and you've been experiencing quite a bit of success in the CFL. There is another Oregon player that we want to bring up that has also had success in the CFL. And believe it or not, he's actually joining us right now.
Hey, Boseko.
Boseko Lokombo.
Hey, Bo, how's it going? Can you hear us?
Yeah.
Oh, man, thanks for coming on. We just wanted to bring you on right here at the end of Josh's interview so we could get both of your guys' opinion. I even went back in the basement, dusted off the old relic of the now Elks from my short stint there. And so we have a Duck CFL reunion, nothing like it. First, tell everybody out there, all our fans that are, just Ducks fans, why they should be watching the CFL right now, why it's such an exciting game.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me on the show. It's been a while. The CFL is just borderline fun. Like, it's just fun to watch, fun to play. It's exciting. It's a faster pace as far as, like, if you were to compare the CFL and the NFL, in my opinion, I think it's a little bit faster. The guys are athletic, playmakers everywhere. It's just overall a good, solid league. And it's, I don't know, this is my 6th year playing, and I've been loving it. You know what I'm saying? I love what I do, so it's great.
Yeah, I think you Duck fans should tune in to the CFL and really get acclimated with the game. It's definitely faster paced. It's definitely enjoyable. I just had a game on Sunday, and it came down to the wire, last second field goal. It was a hard fought battle. The teams are never actually quite out the game just because of the tempo of the game. I know I've had 4 games, and all 4 games have been close. And we've lost 3 of which we've lost all by less than 6 points. So every game is a close game. It just comes down to little details and a game of inches. And on Sunday, we missed a game-winning field goal by literally a half a yard. So it's definitely fun being in the league. This is my 2nd year, and I've definitely enjoyed being in the league.
Well, both of you gentlemen, it's such a phenomenal honor personally for me to be able to talk to both of you. I already told Josh this. Nick already knows this. Boseko. I grew up a big Oregon Ducks fan. Being able to watch you guys every Saturday was just everything I looked forward to throughout the week. So it's awesome to be able to have all of you guys on. I guess the one question, while I have all 3 of you here at the same time, would just be, really, please tell me everything horrific that my co-host used to do in the locker room or anywhere else that was just entirely impossible to deal with, so I have something to tease him about after this episode.
Damn, I don't know about that one. You said anything bad he used to do?
Anything bad, anything good, anything worth bringing up about Nick, just to make him remember who he is a little bit.
Well, what I remember the most from Nick was he was always a hard worker. He always came in the locker room with energy. He was a leader in my eyes, and the way he conducted himself in the locker room was something to watch and to follow. But as far as anything crazy in the locker room, I feel like everybody was a little bit crazy in their own way. We had a lot of characters on the team, and that made, that's why we were so successful during our time there at Oregon.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. I think with a lot of the personalities on our team, I mean, the way we just all meshed together was kind of crazy. There's too many moments that stood out from other people to remember anything I was doing. But the things I definitely remember, especially my senior year, battling with you in that fall camp and that 2012 team. We were talking about it with Josh a little bit earlier, and farewell to him. He had to drop off, but I think that's a great transition. We could talk a little bit about that season because, as we've talked about on our podcast before, a lot of people talk about that 2012 team as being one of the best Oregon football teams of all time. And that fall camp, man, I remember our defensive lineman I was battling against. I remember specifically one time, I don't know if you remember it, but I was banged up. You were banged up. And I think I got yelled at by Coach Graywood because we just had that look at each other like, hey, we're good, right? We both did our job. And they just wanted us to just go because we were trying to take the speed and the tempo we were playing with and just change it into a physical mentality that season. And it wore a lot of us down. I mean, what do you remember specifically from that year and that Fresno State game, especially where we had a bunch of injuries?
It was 2012 you're talking about, right?
Yep.
Oh, man, I remember, like, first of all, we had I think that was, like, roster wise, it was probably our best roster on paper. We had just athletes from all over the place. Um, I think that was my junior year, 2012. So we had like D'Anthony and, Josh Huff and Kenyon Barner, Michael James, like all these fast burners. And I remember, like, everybody who we went up against were afraid of us. You know what I mean? Like, they knew to bring their A game, and they knew it was gonna be a battle. And I remember we were good, man. We had a solid roster, and we were like we everybody wanted to emulate us. You know, we had the uniforms, we had the helmets, the cleats, like we were just on fire. So I remember us winning a lot of games and just having a blast, man. Just loving it.
That 2012 team, we always talk about it. It truly is one of the greatest Oregon football teams of all time. Talent level, just the leadership on the team, everything about it was so fantastic. One of my favorite parts of 2012, and this is just me being the Oregon football nerd that I am, is that you guys got to rock those sweet jerseys, and the one that I see right behind you right now, that awesome yellow one. You guys got to debut it in that game against Fresno State. Oregon plays Fresno State again this weekend. I don't know how much you've been keeping up with current Oregon football, Boseko, but one thing that's definitely for sure, this team is back in the national spotlight the same way you guys were when you guys were playing with that same 2012 team. If you could give advice to a young football player, to a guy 18 to 22 years old who's dealing with that national spotlight and dealing with kind of that pressure of being with a premier program, how would you tell them to carry themselves and to work through it day by day?
Yeah, that's tough, man, because you're in the spotlight all the time. But one thing I would advise them on is to just have fun, man. Be in the moment, enjoy, because football goes fast. The game, you might love the game, but the game might not love you the same. So something could happen to you as far as injuries, or, you maybe going through something off the field, and you just have to enjoy the moment, enjoy your guys, your teammates, and enjoy, like, you work hard, but you gotta have a balance too. You gotta have fun with it too. I know for me, it was like it was happening so fast. We were winning, and then you had to deal with school. But I was always thinking about the next game or the next practice. Sometimes I didn't enjoy it. You know what I'm saying? Like, and so now where I'm at in my position, every time I go in the locker room or anytime I'm talking to my teammates, I just, like, I'm fully present, and especially not being able to play football last year because of COVID, it was tough, on a lot of people. So it's like you just gotta enjoy the moment, man, and have fun with it and work hard, you know.
Well, it's good to know that you're still having fun with it and you're still finding ways to make it fun for yourself. And a lot of people's path to Eugene starts when they get recruited, but for you in particular, you grew up in British Columbia, but you came to Eugene to play football before you were an Oregon Duck. Tell us what that was like.
Yeah, so my junior year, I believe it was my junior year of high school, I transferred over to South Eugene for a year because I wasn't really getting recruited up here in BC. And so I had to find another way to, showcase myself and my talent and stuff. So when I came down, South Eugene was the perfect spot because I had family in Eugene already. So I came down for a year, and I started to really excel. I started to really like focus, like dial it in, because they say your junior year is a time when scouts come and they want to see what you're about. And so I just focused, man. Like my whole focus and everything changed, and I really started to like love the game. And then like the scholarship started coming because I was doing well in high school. And then my senior year, I had to come back to Vancouver because of some some visa situation. So I came back, but I had already like 5 or 6 scholarships from, all the different Pac-10 at the time, Pac-10 schools. And so, so then I committed to Oregon. I felt comfortable with the staff. Don Pelham was my man. Greatwood too was actually the one. It was Don Pelham and Coach Greatwood that were recruiting me. And so they would come out to Vancouver and watch me play basketball, watch some of my games, and like send me letters and, encourage me. And that was very encouraging. And then, like Oregon felt right. It was close to home. And it's probably the best decision I made in my life.
Well, whenever somebody says the University of Oregon was the best decision they ever made in their life, that's something that I know Nick and I like to hear, both being as connected to it as we are. I guess one thing that I would have to ask you, Boseko, about your entire time in Oregon and Eugene, it's something that we asked Josh earlier, but it's what really did the community of Eugene mean to you while you were playing and then afterwards as you moved on into your professional career?
It meant a lot. A lot of those people took care of me. Like, I don't know, there's a bunch of people who I still talk to till this day. Eugene, just the Eugene community, people who still follow me. They just took care of me. Like whenever I needed something, any advice or a living, like my living situation wasn't always the greatest, but they took care of me. They just kind of pointed at me towards the right direction. And it was just like, I just felt like it was a family almost. Like I still consider Eugene as my second home. I still have family down in Eugene, and I'm actually trying to go watch a game this year. I'm trying to see, because we have a bye week in October, close to my birthday. I'm trying to see if I could come down to watch a game with my family and stuff. So yeah, man, Eugene I have a special place in my heart for Eugene, and there's a reason why.
Yeah, I think we all do as Ducks, and that's why, once a Duck, always a Duck. It's the whole reason I made the podcast, because it's just so great to share that energy. And something you shared with Josh Huff is that you were drafted the same year as him, but you weren't drafted in the same league. What's it like getting drafted by I guess your hometown team, right?
Right. It was special, man. It was pretty cool. It was crazy because when I got drafted, I still had a year left of school. Like I could have easily like skipped my senior year and went to play up here in the CFL. But at the time, I wanted to finish. I wanted to get my degree. I wanted to try the NFL, and I just felt like I needed another year to develop, both physically and mentally. And it was cool, man, because I remember my phone was blowing up when I got drafted, and like everybody back home was like, congratulations, like you're in the CFL now, like you're boom, 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 like we see you everywhere on TV. But at the time, I was taking classes. Like I was in class when they drafted me. So when I got out of class, my phone was like just beeping, just going crazy, just blowing up. And like my father and my mom and them called me, and they're like, yeah, we just saw you on TV, you got drafted, 21st overall and blah, blah, blah. And it was special, but I had something else in mind.
Yeah, definitely. That makes sense. And I know that since that's the only place I got to play a preseason game, that's of all the CFL play arenas, that's probably the place I'd want to, play the most. You've bounced around the NFL, the CFL. What of those experiences, what are just a couple of your favorites that stand out to you that you'd like to share?
Well, I know when did a workout with the Baltimore Ravens. They liked my speed and they brought me in because they saw potential in me. Um, Probably one of my favorite moment was like, because I played with Baltimore. I was with Baltimore for probably 7 months. I got cut week 2. I was on a practice roster or practice squad, and they cut me week 2 because of injuries. And then after that, I went to Oakland for like 2 weeks, and they were dealing with some injuries, so they had to bring another guy in. So they cut me, and then my last team was the 49ers. I was with them for about 6 months, and then they cut me towards the end, unfortunately. But probably my favorite team out of them 3 was probably the Ravens. I definitely consider the Baltimore Ravens. I had 4 preseason games with them. I should have like been on the team a little bit longer, but with injuries, it didn't work out. I met Ray Lewis when we went to play in the UK for a game.
Wow.
Preseason. It was our first game of that year in 2017. We played Jacksonville Jaguars in UK, and the day before we had a little like flag 60, like a 7-on-7 with the kids, and Ray Lewis showed up, and I was like starstruck. He was somebody who I started following from, ever since I started playing football, and he's actually the reason why the Ravens are my favorite team. So when I met him, it was like so special for me. I took a picture with them, and he was just giving me advice, man. He's like, keep going, man, keep going. Ray has that voice, like whenever he talks to you, you just get motivated. Like you want to run, you know what I'm saying? You just want to, like, he just has that it factor. And so anyway, so meeting Ray Lewis, one of my favorite moments, and just like experiencing the NFL at that level. Like I said, unfortunately, it didn't work out, but I wouldn't change it for a thing.
Folks, Boseko Lokombo here with us, an absolute legend as far as I'm concerned, and as far as most Ducks fans are concerned, in Oregon history. You currently play in the CFL. You're with the BC Lions. We've talked a little bit about the game of football up there and how it's a little bit different and everything like that. But I guess culturally, my question would be, is a football locker room a football locker room? Is there a difference between league to league that you feel? Or is there just like the through line of we're all here for the same goal, we're all playing the same game?
I would have to say up here in the CFL, guys really enjoy the game. They don't feel that stress of like having to perform at like such a high level, or like that anxiety of like, oh, I missed a tackle, am I gonna get cut? Or boom, boom, boom. Like when I was in the NFL, I always felt like I had to walk on eggshells. I had to like be perfect all the time. I couldn't enjoy the game anymore. It was such a business mindset in the NFL that it made it hard to really enjoy it. And then when you're kind of stiff, you can't really perform at the level that you want to be. That's a whole nother level. In the CFL, it's still a little bit like that, but it's not as bad. Guys aren't getting paid like millions and millions and millions of dollars, but they're getting enough to live. Like I'm definitely, as far as like money wise, I'm okay. I'm very like I'm fine. Like things are good. But as far as just playing, like I love the game so much, man. Like there's obviously it's a different game up here as far as like how how offenses go, how to study opponents up here. It's a little bit different with the motions and the third down and the 20-second clock. But it's like it's just so much more exciting. Special teams is very important, even more so important up here. And guys just like they love what they do, and they come, they come happy. You don't always, and guys up here too aren't like, they don't really like off the field. They're pretty good. They're pretty clean, off the field. Like they don't like abuse anybody, or they don't, what I'm saying? Like they're good people, and they love the game, and that's what makes it so fun.
Yeah, I think that was an important part of our teams. Is one reason that we all had really good cohesion and guys got along is we all love the game and we all got enjoyment out of the game, and we found that common purpose together. And I think that's really important for all football teams, that you bring in good guys because they just gel better together. I think the Oregon program now is just taken the level of good guys they're bringing in and elevated the talent to a completely new level. I don't know how much Oregon football you've been able to watch the past couple of years, but what do you think about Mario Cristobal's team now, what they're going into this season, how they look, and how do you feel about particularly this Fresno State opener? And not to peek ahead, because we don't do that as football players, but the season and games ahead that are going to be big. What do you think this team can do with the level of talent that's there now?
Definitely. So this year is the first year where I haven't really followed the Ducks this year. This is the first year. Like last year or the year before, I was following them quite heavily. Like I was a big fan of Brady Breeze. I was a big fan of the quarterback, Justin Herbert. Like, yeah, and then the dude Holland, the Canadian who was drafted by Miami Dolphins. He was somebody who I was following. So this year, I don't even really know what the schedule is like. So week 1 they play Fresno State,
and then we go up to the Ohio State.
The Ohio State. Okay.
Yeah.
I know we're ranked 11 right now, right?
Yeah.
11 in the AP poll.
Yeah.
Okay. So I just to speak about Mario Cristobal, I think he's a really good coach. You know what I'm saying? Like he definitely brought that excitingness to the Ducks, and like the winning culture, he brought that back up. And I haven't met the guy, but he seemed like a really genuine guy, and I think he's doing a pretty good job, man. I think he's doing a great job, and I think this year they're gonna go far as long as they stay healthy. And yeah, I'm excited to watch. I'm definitely gonna try to come down to a game in October, and I'm gonna try to follow them whenever I can. It's hard for me, man. I have a family now. I got 2 kids. You know what I'm saying? Like,
congrats, by the way. Congratulations on that. That's awesome, man. I love it. Every time you're posting pictures, it's great.
Well, Bo, we can tell you that we hope to see you at a game in October. I know I'll be in the front row right there, ready to wave and be way too obnoxious if you are down there. It's been awesome to be able to talk to you. I'm sure Nick's got something great to send you out on, but just from my end, it's been a pleasure to speak with you.
hey, man, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, man, I just really appreciate you being able to come on and us getting 2 CFL and NFL guys in. And it's a great way to start our season. And we hope we can have you on again sometime. And once a Duck, always a Duck. Good to see you, man.
Go Ducks, man. Appreciate it.
Ducks. Wow, that was great. We just had 2 Ducks from the same class that I got to play with that also played in the CFL. I mean, what a better way to start our season, Sam. What do you think?
The only thing that I could think would be any better than that would be to be able to give the people a quick breakdown, then we all go watch some great Oregon football on Saturday.
Well, hey, I've got the perfect breakdown for you. Like we talked about a little bit with Josh Huff, we played Fresno State, and yeah, me and him had some injuries in that. So let's go to the film room, back to 2012, first quarter of the game, second series, and let's share some embarrassing moments right here from yours truly in that game. You can see right here, score 7 for Oregon, Fresno State 3. We're right kind of at midfield. You're going to see me right here at right guard, and I trip right on Hronis' shoe, and no big deal, get up. But you see everybody running down the field. I'm barely able to maintain a jog. As we get the second angle here, you're going to really appreciate this. I'm trying to take over the nose tackle for Hronis, and pause right there. This is not a good position in football. On the football field, you see how everyone else is standing, and I'm the one guy on all fours. That, my friends, I don't know how educated you are, once the Duck fans. This is not the position you want to be in. So, yeah.
Why are you explaining this like you're Thumper the ski instructor from South Park, man? If you block poorly, you're gonna have a bad time.
You're gonna have a bad time. If you go ahead from this right guard position and step on your center's heel, you're gonna have a bad time. One more time, look at this, and sound effects. Whoop, done. So we get to later in this series, which is the real sad part here. We get down and we do eventually get in the red zone. You're going to see right here, Marcus almost gets in on his own. But, of course, that wasn't the touchdown. It should have been. It would have saved me this embarrassing moment on the next play. But right here, not too bad. Hey, go ahead, engage on the front side. get the pull-out option right there. And Colt Lyerl in the backfield is a pitch guy, but Marcus takes it himself. But here we go to end the drive. We're going to get in the end zone on this play. Watch here right at right guard as I block absolutely no one and fall over again. So happened right here is I banged my knee up in fall camp, probably blocking Boseko Lokombo. And right here, you're going to see I actually put my hand down in 3-point stance there, which I'm only doing if I'm absolutely hurting, because I always preferred, as you see as our left guard here, 2-point stance is always easier to keep your head up and your eyes up. And if your eyes and head aren't up, well, where do you go? You go where your eyes are. My eyes are straight down. My first step is immediately, right towards the ground. I try to perform the rollover, turn back, and say, shit, block, but doesn't quite work out. And I got to sit on the bench the next series after that, just so you know. So for all our fans out there that have been asking for a little more in-depth football talk and a little bit of visual demonstration, I hope you're watching on YouTube right now and having a good laugh at my expense. But any plays you guys remember in Oregon Duck history, particularly plays I was in, please let us know. Shoot us those YouTube links. We'll review them for you and break them down like that. But I remember that was just one of many injuries that day, that week, early that season. We lost Carson York, who although at the time was a backup, was a key starter for 3 years before that. And he had re-injured his patellar tendon. We lost John Boyette, another multi-year starter. I keep looking back at the 2012 team, and it just every single time I go back and think about all the different things that we pushed through that season, and to still be in a position where we're one game away from potentially playing again in the national title. I don't know if I'll ever get over it, Sam.
Well, I mean, Nick, you're making me want to cry like I did back then when I was 13 or 14 years old watching that. So thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, folks, please send your clips in. It can be from the opponent Oregon has coming up, something particularly funny Nick did on the field or off. I don't really care. I'll review any of it. It sounds great either way. And I think we will have a great time. That being said, Nick, there's only one last thing to cover. It's the game that's coming up on Saturday.
Yeah.
Oregon, they've got somebody new who's taking over at quarterback, a brand new day one starter. They've got some great talent on the outside, maybe one of the deepest receiving corps we've seen in Oregon history. An amazing running back room that is just full to the brim. Great offensive line, terrific defensive line highlighted by Kayvon Thibodeau. A linebacking core that is incredibly deep, incredibly athletic, young, willing to get out there, very hungry. And then a group of DBs who are missing a couple of guys who will probably be back at some point during the season. But for now, some young guys out there, Dante Manning specifically towards the Bridges, and guys that are getting some looks out there. I guess I'm wondering from you, Nick, where have you been kind of looking this offseason? What's sticking out to you? And going into this game against Fresno State, what do you want to see the most?
Yeah, well, before I answer those questions, let us not forget about the heated battle at kicker, which has not been announced. So just throwing that out there, kicker, when that's a heated battle, man, it's been a tough fall camp, because that's one of those positions you don't see battled out too much. So just something of note there that'll be interesting to see against Fresno State is who gets the kicks. Is it going to be alternating? Who's going to get the chance to take over? Is it Lewis or Cattleman? So we'll see. That's something I'm really interested in. But first and foremost, the quarterback situation. I think it's been pretty clear throughout the offseason that Anthony Brown was going to be the starter, even though we only got to see him limited in 2 games last season. Now, the big thing for me is there's some talk that Ty Thompson was pushing him in camp, and the scrimmages, he had a really good appearance. But of course, you don't want to throw a true freshman in this early in the season, in a season where you're going up to Ohio State in week 2. So Anthony Brown, it seems like, gives the Ducks the best possibility of winning on the road in week 2. But right now, week 1, that's the first time to prove it. His first chance as a starter, he's got to come out and show command of the offense right away. It would make everybody real confident if we just came out like I remember Marcus Mariota's first season. It was right before that Fresno State game. But Arkansas State, the way that the offense came out and made us feel really, really confident. Those first couple drives, just getting momentum, getting a lot of yards, and letting the playmakers make plays, because there's so many on this team We don't have a ton of seniors, but what we do, guys like Micah Pittman, CJ Verdell, guys that are going to be able to have a huge impact and control football games if you can just get them the football consistently and not turn the football over. So that's one of the biggest things for me, and a key against Fresno State, because they're always scrappy. Like I showed you a little bit of the film there, those guys were tough, maybe a lot tougher than we were prepared for, because Fresno State is a program that goes in, they know they're going to be playing teams in their non-conference season that are a lot tougher than them, and they're expecting to kind of test themselves and really push those teams to the limit, if not get an upset victory. So the Ducks really have to be prepared, and hopefully that everything they've been doing with a full off-season conditioning program is going to allow them to come out, dominate all 4 quarters, and have a really successful time integrating whoever the new quarterback ends up being.
And Nick, Fresno State, that's not the kind of team you can really take for granted on the schedule. They're the kind of team that's able to pick up a lot of really talented players from that kind of area of California who maybe don't get the looks from bigger schools, got a chip on their shoulder. They went out there last week, played a really, really tight, efficient ball game against UConn, looked really sharp doing it. This isn't a bad team. Oregon's not starting with an FCS opponent. This isn't your Portland State or your Sacramento State or your Southern Utah or whatever you may have. This is a FBS team that is Division I and very, very talented. They can go out and do just about anything if it's the right day and the right time and the right situation. How do you prepare for an opponent like that maybe doesn't match up on paper the same way, but could be a threat at any moment?
Yeah, especially early seasons. I was very familiar with playing the occasional Portland State or Arkansas State or Fresno State, as we said, where your opponent is just, a different set of numbers on the paper, the guys you're studying on film. But really what you want to hone in on, especially for week 1, is how well have you developed in the off season, and how does your team show that in cohesion on the football field? I think that is the most important thing you can do in game 1, and especially with a team that isn't going to be bringing you the hype themselves. This isn't like the Ohio State game we were playing last year, where they were going to come in and it was going to be the biggest fan base, biggest crowd ever. You have to bring a little bit of your own energy for these games. I just think one great factor is that it's been so long since there's been a game with fans in Autzen Stadium. In fact, we were at the last one, 2019. I almost did it. Coming back. I'm going to put it in there anyways. I almost said the old Oregon State-Oregon rivalry, which we will put it all in the swear jar for almost saying. But I think it's important to remember that fans will be back for the first time since that Oregon State game. And regardless if it's full or not, it's going to be loud because people are excited.
It's going to be loud. It's going to be fun. It's going to be exciting. Fans will be in attendance for the first time. I know I'm going to be there. I can't wait. Us in the Oregon student section, we might have a couple things up our sleeve that we're excited to be able to show you guys come Saturday. It's going to be a fun time. Oregon Ducks fans, wear green. It is a wear green game. Be able to bring the fans back to the stadium wearing a good old Oregon color. The way it should be, folks. It's going to be a really fun time. I guarantee that, and I can't wait to see all of you out there.
Yeah, and I know I'm still on edge. I was not going to come down, but seeing the price of some of the Fresno State tickets right now, we'll see. When this show's released, I'll probably have my decision made. We'll see if we can get a ride down there from Seattle, because oh man, I just want to be there. I miss it so much. I think all of us do, and it's been too long, guys. It's been too long, and I just hope everybody stays safe, especially in these next couple days leading up to it. Not just for yourself, but being considerate of others. It's very important towards not just this game, but having a great season.
Absolutely, everybody. Remember, there are new rules at Autzen this year. Like them or not, we all have to follow them. That's the way it is. Be sure to check your email. Be sure to check on the University of Oregon website. Make sure everybody's following all the protocol they need to, just so that we don't have any issues we don't need to have at the game. We all want to be able to go have fun. I know that. Lastly, Nick, before we get out of here, give the people your score prediction. What's going to happen this weekend? How does this game end up? We're not looking ahead to next week because there is no next week. We're just worried about this week right here. Oregon, Fresno State. What happens?
No, not looking ahead to next week, but we will tease a little bit of next week's guest before we get out of here. But oh man, I haven't crunched the numbers necessarily, but I've had a really good feeling about a prediction of a season average for this offense. I think with all the bells and whistles that you can put in the offseason. I think this offense can average about 43 points. That's what we'll go with offensively. And I think let's go Fresno State. I expect them to kind of be shell shocked after playing UConn kind of as easily as they did. And even though they're going to be bringing their A game, probably, I imagine that our team's physicality and strength will wear them down in the third and fourth quarter. And I imagine our defense, if it is able to adjust to having a new scheme, I think we're going to be able to hold them under 21 points. So let's go 20 points Fresno State, 43 Ducks. What do you got, Sam?
Well, you know what? I've got the same score either way, but I've got two different ways of getting to it. I think the final score of this game is going to be a 41-24 ball game. I think Fresno State isn't a bad team by any means. I think they're able to get a few touchdowns on the board, maybe a field goal. I think Oregon's able to put up 4 or 5 touchdowns pretty easily. And then they're going to want to get each of their kickers probably a shot as well. So I'm adding a couple field goals just for that sake. Here's how this will work, though. Oregon is either going to come out and it's going to be a little bit slow at first. It's going to be a close-ish game. You're going to go into halftime a little more uncomfortable than you want to be. But as the second half goes on, you nailed the nick. They're going to wear them out a bit. The physicality of Oregon's going to take over. Some of those runs that were going for 3 and 4 yards are going to start breaking for 14 or 15 yards. And Oregon's going to be able to pull away down the stretch. Or, complete opposite. The Ducks come out lightning fast. Fans in the stands makes a complete difference. Oregon is up big early, goes into halftime with the lead, able to let some of the young guys go in the second half. Either way, I think we still end up at about that score of a game. I think about 16, 17 points is fair. Oregon's obviously a more talented team. Fresno State can definitely play football, though. Either way, it'll be a really fun one to watch and a great way to get the 2021 season underway.
Yeah, I'm very excited. And not just for that, but just to be back and having this podcast back. It's been so good to see you, my friend. And I'm really excited. Just a little tease for next week's guest. Somebody that went on a big road game. Some would consider the biggest road game in Oregon history. And he's done pretty well for himself since. A little bit of NFL experience. And not to give too much away, but we might be plugging his show or his podcast too. So somebody to look forward to. And if you think you know who it is, let us know on Twitter at Once a Duck or down in the comments. If you've got a great guest, let us know. Or if you have any suggestions for players, former Ducks that you want to see on the show, get at us because we'll get after them. We'll see. And if they want on, they're always welcome. And it was great. I want to thank Boseko and Josh Huff again. They were fantastic guests. And once a Duck, always a Duck, my friend. Let's go.